Welcome in, Rams, and happy early Halloween.
'Tis the season for spooks and scares, and today we'll be telling you about all the movies, treats, and traditions that can help you celebrate the holiday right. Now, it's no surprise that my favorite time of year is Halloween. I mean, who doesn't like dressing up and having an excuse to take a sweet vacation on your diet to eat buckets of candy? No? Just me? Well, I took it upon myself to take advantage of the season and take a brief dive into slasher films. Hey everybody, it's Justin, and 'tis the season for that spooky, spooky goodness. One of my favorite genres in cinema is horror. Definitely something to be said about the different genres that you can mix and match with horror, especially with comedy or supernatural, which honestly kind of really rocks. However, there's one genre that stands above all of them, in my opinion at least, which is the slasher film. The slasher film has a long history, so let's not waste any time. Slashers reflect our inner fears, something that goes bump in the night that isn't really a ghost, but has more of a human element to it. That's honestly what makes it way more scary. But where did it come from? Why is it so popular? Why did it decline for a little while only to come back just recently? We have to go all the way back to ancient Rome, where gladiators would battle in the Colosseum in bloody duels. This was probably one of the first times that people who wanted bloodshed actually got what they were looking for. We move all the way to the late 19th century, where supernatural horror dominated literature. Stuff like Dracula, Frankenstein, you get my drift. Horror definitely was yearning for a human element, which in 1897, the opening of the Grand Guignol in France gave. Specializing in naturalistic horror with blood and guts, this home for horror in France was notable for its gory special effects. While the Grand Guignol was in France, the United States was still dealing with the Hays Code of 1930. The Hays Code restricted severe amounts of violence and sexuality to be depicted on film. However, the first type of slash film can be considered with 13 Women, where a group of sorority girls were terrorized and picked off one by a maskless killer. This was considered an early influence in the slasher genre. However, we wouldn't make our way to more popularized media until 1960 with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. It was the first of its kind to have a psychological horror element added to it that was commercially and critically successful. And of course, who could forget the infamous almost 3-minute shower stabbing scene? I mean, if you're gonna try to kill me in a shower, you better do it quickly, because I have a time period, I need to go to work, so... However, all jokes aside, it was the first time that audiences got to see someone get hacked to death. That imagery stayed with slasher films all the way till today. Psycho forced audiences to come face to face with real terror that could be closer than you think. However, the Hays Code was still in effect, so you really couldn't show too much splatter on film. That was until 1963 with the release of Blood Feast, which kind of founded the splatter subgenre. It's undeniable that the one film that opened up the golden age of slasher films was Halloween.
Halloween, the night he came home.
While it wasn't the first, Halloween featured an isolated neighborhood setting with a pure heroine fending off from a heavy-breathing boogeyman known as Michael Myers. For a while, it was the most successful independent film ever made. While the murders were done off-screen and more in the shadows, this was the first time that slasher films had such a wide amount of people paying attention to them. It was really low budget to make, taking around $300,000 to make, and then earning back $70 million. That attracted a lot of other filmmakers who wanted to participate in the slasher genre and make low-budget, scary horror films. While Halloween would have so many imitators after that, the one successful imitator was Friday the 13th. The hype for this was just too much. Ads claimed that Friday the 13th would be the most terrifying film ever made. While Friday wasn't as scary as Halloween, in my opinion, it was definitely more gory. In fact, it had the first decapitation scene in popular media. There were literally no cutaways. You saw the exact moment when this person got decapitated, and it was like, oh, that's nice. However, it was films like these that really hampered on the Hays Code from 1930 and made it easier for audiences to access such gory special effects. This opened the floodgates for all kinds of slasher films. By 1984, the slasher film had oversaturated the film market, and they had started to make straight-to-video productions in favor of limiting costs. The next slasher kind of is controversial. In fact, some people would say that it revitalized the game. However, in my opinion, I believe it did the exact opposite.
Touch me all night long, make me love it.
Nightmare on Elm Street was one of the first popular forms of media that blended together the slasher genre with more supernatural elements. Freddy had a personality lacked by Michael and Jason, and his dreamscape raised the bar. Although Nightmare on Elm Street was critically successful, the narrative was a little too much for the people at the time. I mean, it kind of queer-coded its characters, especially the main character, who arguably could be considered gay. It was something that audiences had never seen before, a gay main character being terrorized by his inner fears of homophobia and of course Freddy Krueger. However, because of Nightmare on Elm Street, you saw films like Chucky, Hellraiser, and Candyman.
Not the beast!
Instead of reinvigorating the slasher genre, it kind of made a mix of the supernatural and slasher elements and combined them together to make a supernatural slasher genre. The supernatural slasher film saw more success than the traditional slasher films, which kind of made slasher films non-existent for a while. Of course you had your low-budget slasher films, but it wouldn't really come back into the mainstream consciousness until 1996 with Scream.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Scream redefined the genre's rules. It deconstructed horror tropes and showcased the celebrity of its stars. The 21st century is seeing its fair share of horror remakes, from Halloween to Nightmare on Elm Street to the LeBron James produced Friday the 13th. He purchased the rights, so I guess he's the one in charge of this. And hey, I'm not judging. I'm just saying basketball and slasher films are a little different, but I'm sure they could work out. So that's a brief history of slasher films in media. Stay safe, make sure to lock all your doors, and make sure to look behind you.
Look behind you. Turn around. Behind you. Oh, turn. Behind you. Behind you.
Honestly, blood and guts make me super nauseous, but I can't not watch scary movies. They're like my bread and butter, and if you told me about a new Scream, I'd jump on that like white on rice, friends.
For those of you looking for tips on how to spend this weekend, we got you covered. Tomorrow, students can enjoy the CSU's Fall Choral Showcase for free. This showcase starts at 7:30 p.m. This Friday is the monthly Old Town Foodie Walk from 5 to 8 p.m. Head to Old Town to get a taste of the city's finest culinary shops. And this Saturday, you can book a spot for the tea and whiskey tasting experience at Lucky's Tea House from 5 to 6 p.m.
So, what are you going as for Halloween?
Oh, there's so many choices. I'm still very stuck. But I do know that my best friend and I love Friends, the show Friends. So I'll probably go somewhere along those lines.
Are you gonna be like Rachel or what?
Yeah, I'll probably be Rachel, and then my
That's a
other
good
friend
choice.
is more like a hippie, so like Phoebe kind of thing.
That's fun.
What about you?
You know, I'm so boring that I feel like I go out as a vampire every single year. I'm probably gonna go as a vampire again just because it's so easy. I have a black cape and I'm already white, so it's like there's no need for makeup. So probably stay safe and do vampire. I also have Mario from Super Mario.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Maybe I may branch out. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but after we're going to be talking about some more movies that can help you spook you this season.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back from the break. You know, I feel this October was way different from the last in that there were less scary movies in theaters. That's totally cray, but what's not cray are the two films I have cooked up for you that will definitely be worth your while. Grab your popcorn buckets because it's time to see which movies are a toot and which ones are a boot. Before the release of Joker, I remember people online were rightfully concerned that the Joker would unintentionally end up being a talking point for white supremacy. Well, I've seen it, and I'm here to tell you that that is most definitely far from that speculative narrative. This DC comic book film adaptation stars Joaquin Phoenix as the titular crime mastermind we all know and kind of love. It's a complicated relationship, man. Joker tells the origin story of Arthur Fleck, a failed comedian and party clown who forever alone in a crowd of people who isolated and bullied him for being different. Arthur makes questionable decision after another, like having a gun fall out of his pocket while entertaining at a children's hospital. When he asks for help on improving his situation, he's ridiculed by his coworkers, mother, and really every single outside character that isn't Zazie Beetz' Sophie. It's easy for people to make fun of you for the littlest, even biggest differences. The hard work comes with admitting institutions of oppression do exist and are a problem in society. Going into this, I was scared the discourse online would be proven true, that Joker would give a wide platform for white supremacy and bigotry. Instead, the narrative focuses on a character that's been lied to his entire life and led to believe that his current situation was inevitable, only to turn on everyone when there's nowhere left for him to turn to. Joker has an emotionally gripping story that challenges his audience to reflect on society and how systems of oppression will continue to reign unless the people address and fix them head on. Joker earns a definite toot and is in theaters now. Now here's something you haven't seen in a while, and that's the good old-fashioned zombie movie. With films like Zombieland Double Tap slowly trying to revive the ever-popular subgenre, films like Little Monsters add a dash of freshness into the zombie mix. Little Monsters is about Dave, a washed-up musician, teaming up with the intelligent and demure kindergarten teacher, Miss Caroline, played by Academy Award-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o. In this Hulu original film, Dave and Miss Caroline must fend off a random horde of zombies and protect the kindergarten class on a field trip to a farm. These chaperones have their work cut out for them, and Little Monsters wastes no time in dishing out the laughs that come from monitoring children in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. While Nyong'o offers a stellar and hilarious performance, filled with singing, playing the uke, and fighting the undead, there were a few moments that really left a sour taste in my mouth, like Josh Gad's entire character, Teddy McGiggle. His entire performance can be summed up to Olaf from Frozen drops the F-bomb every 5 seconds on the camera. And while overtly cussing can be used for comedic effect, it just felt redundant and kind of out of place. I mean, if you ever want to hear Olaf from Frozen cuss, I guess now's your chance. Another complaint I have is one of the main characters, Dave. The romance between Dave and Miss Caroline feels kind of forced and undeserved. And while it's a smaller complaint in comparison to Olaf cussing, it was one of the driving factors for Dave's character. Like, Dave wasn't exactly the best candidate to date an Academy Award-winning zombie-slaying superhero, in my opinion. In fact, Miss Caroline doesn't appear too receptive toward his advances because, I mean, there are zombies everywhere. But hey, I won't act like I'm the authority on policing love, okay? Regardless of the bad, Little Monsters gives enough charm and wit to earn a soft toot from me. Well, those are all the movies I have for you today, Rams. You can catch Joker in theaters and Little Monsters on Hulu now.
So, what is your favorite horror movie?
You're asking me the loaded questions already. You know, I'm gonna have to just say Halloween, the 1978 version. I think, I don't know, something about just like some stalker that you don't even know that isn't even connected to until the second movie, of course, is frightening, and it kind of is reflective of, it could be reflective of real life, so
Yeah.
that's my favorite. What about you?
I kind of like Sinister. Like,
Really?
I like how it's kind of, you know, a little bit of reality, but like not, and it's still got like the scary aspects to it, so.
There's some people that really don't like that film, but
Why?
I mean, I don't know. I think because it came after Insidious, like
Insidious is a good one too, though.
I mean,
I
that's
really enjoy
undeniable,
that.
yeah.
All right, well, that's all we have with the spooky movies, but after the break, we're going to be talking some sweets, Halloween treats, and traditions. Don't go anywhere.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. Now, I have a question for you. What's the biggest pumpkin that you've seen? Maybe like 20, 40 pounds? Well, I got to see even bigger pumpkins this past weekend. Fort Collins Nursery had their annual pumpkin weighing contest, and you'll not believe the size of these pumpkins.
We see a few really regular competitors every year. So there's a lot of very familiar faces every year. We always see a few new entries every year, and it's really exciting when we see those people who were new last year come back again this year, trying to beat their own personal records and really step up in the competition.
This contest hit the national level in 2015, which meant that Fort Collins got to see the biggest pumpkins in Colorado and surrounding states.
For it to be considered a pumpkin, it has to be orange. That's one of the key factors. So you'll see some of the pumpkins here are green. They may be genetically identical to some of these orange ones, but for whatever reason, they just didn't get an orange color to them. So those will be treated as a gourd, not a pumpkin, and they're entered in a different category. They have to be completely intact, which means they don't have any cracks or otherwise no compromises in the shell. So you'll see when they're judging over here, one of the things they want to make sure of is that it hasn't been adulterated in any way. Nobody's punched a hole in it and filled it up with water or anything like that. And it has to have no more than, I think it's about 2 or 3 inches of stem. A lot of water weight can reside in the stem of the pumpkin. Pumpkins, if they keep water connected to that stem, those pumpkins will keep sucking up water until the moment that stem is removed. So a lot of these guys will keep their stems in water right until the moment they weigh, and then you'll see them flashing out a knife and hacking everything off right before we throw it on the scale.
Until the final moment of this competition, fans were anxiously waiting to see which pumpkin is the winner.
My daughter was on a soccer team of another guy in Cheyenne that grows these giant pumpkins, and I got seeds from him. And then that got me hooked. And then ever since then, I was just, okay, I got to beat my next record. I got to beat my next record. And then I got the state record. Then I lost the state record. And so this year I got the state record back.
Andy Corbin's nearly 1,500-pound pumpkin was this year's winner and even got Wyoming's new state record.
It's very peaceful being out in the pumpkin patch, just myself. I can water, I can look. When they really take off growing, you might get up to 40 pounds a day. So you can actually see that growth when you go back out in your patch, and you can just like, wow, how does this happen? It's just growing amazingly fast. And so that's what really excites me. And then of course the camaraderie, everybody's very friendly. Most pumpkin growers are just great people. So.
Congrats, Andy Corbin, on your big win. It honestly still amazes me that pumpkins can grow that big. So what are your favorite snacks for Halloween?
Another difficult question. I want to say Twix, but honestly, I will eat Twix if you just give it to me any day. So probably like, what are they called? Those little like, they use, the name escapes me, but like it's like a little candy. It's around Halloween. You can put them and they use them for teeth.
Candy corn?
Yeah, that.
Candy
Yeah,
corns,
it's part of the season, so why not? What about you?
To be honest, I love chocolate. Anything chocolate is like my go-to.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, I'm so original. Maybe just like, what's it? M&Ms, like peanut M&Ms. I love those. Or I could go not chocolate and do like Sour Patch.
There's also pumpkin spiced everything.
Pumpkin
nowadays.
spice everything, yeah.
So like we said at the beginning of the show, 'tis the season.
Yeah.
If you want to get some tips on toasting seeds and pumpkin carving, check out our YouTube channel, CTV 11, in the coming days for a little tutorial from us at Ramlife. Now, after the break, we're going to give you a quick recap of the past month of Ram News with a little humor added. Stay tuned.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
It's almost the end of this show, which means it's time for our jokes in the news.
Halloween weekend is right around the corner, which is a great time for college students where we get to witness scary movies and pumpkin spice slowly dissolve to putting on a costume you can black out by 11 p.m.
Speaking of Halloween weekend, who can forget all the free candy? If you are someone who is watching their sugar intake, you can mail in your candy bags to the basement of Clark C, where I will be patiently waiting.
Homecoming weekend was a couple weeks back, which means students got to spend time with their family. They did things like going on hikes at Horsetooth, going to expensive dinners that they can't really afford, and getting that last Costco run right before your parents leave. Well, that's all we have for Ramlife tonight. Stay tuned for the Thursday news tomorrow on CTV.